So the first thing I do when I'm teaching kids to play or anybody to play the violin is I get them to set their case flat. So when you open the case, if the violin is not secured inside the case, it won't tip over or fall out or maybe wreck something like a bridge or a string on it. So then on a flat surface, I'll take the zippers and open the case. When I open the case, the violin will be secured most of the time with a Velcro. So then you can just undo the Velcro and release the violin and from the case. Now the other thing that a lot of players will play and put on is a shoulder rest, which will help you hold up the violin. So the shoulder rest just slides on securely. It's wrapped in rubber, so that will protect the wood on the violin from the edge of the shoulder rest. Now the shoulder rest, the fat end of the shoulder rest will go onto the top end of your shoulder. And when I put it on the violin, I will snug one end on and then slide the other end on. And when I look at that, it's like it's a upside down smile, I tell people, or a frown when I hold the violin this way. So that way the fat end will be on top of your shoulder and it will brace on top of your shoulder when we hold it. Okay? So we will get to that in a bit. We'll get to the violin very shortly. But I want to focus also on within the case is there are bows in there. So these are the bows in the case. The stick, what we pulled across the strings. The bows are secured in with a toggle as well. So the toggle, you'll turn the toggle, take the bow out, and don't try not to touch the hairs when you take the violin out. The hairs are horse hairs, but they have rosin on them. And if you touch the hairs, we have natural oils on our hands. And the oils from our hand will stick to the rosin indiscreetly, but it'll collect dust and dirt particles from the air, and then that section of the bow won't play. So it's probably pretty important not to touch the hair as much as possible. Sometimes it's unavoidable. So you can see when I take it out, I'll take it out like that, and I'll grab it by the stick or by the frog. I'll go over the parts of the bow in a second. When I go to put the bow back in, this tip end, the pointy end of the bow, will go inside this pocket here. And that will secure back in there and then go within the case. Now I'm going to take it out again. I'm going to do a little bit of talking about the bow right now. The bow is probably one of the most important and unique things about this instrument is the bowing. So to play, I always, you have to tighten the hairs on the bow, and that is tightened by this little silver knob on the end. It's called the screw. Actually, let me go over the parts of the bow. So we have the tip end here. This is the pointy end of the bow. And it's important that we don't bang the tip end because the wood is very fine in there and it will cause a crack or a fracture. And then that's very, very hard to fix and replace. So be careful with the tip end as well. This is called the stick, the long part of the bow. Of course, we have the hair, which I was talking about before, which is horsehair, of course. We have this end here, which is the screw, which we're going to use to tighten the bow. So it'll be tightened like we turn a screw in the wall. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. So I will tighten my hair almost till I get about, upside down, I get about a pencil's width off of the stick. Okay, like this. Then when I'm done playing, I will turn the screw down till it almost touches the stick. Okay, to take the tension off. It's important to take the tension off your bow every time you're done playing. It preserves the life of the stick. Otherwise, you'll start to get a wow in the stick, and then the bow skips around and bounces around more. So every time you're done, take the tension off of the bow. Moving from the screw and the tightening and loosening of the bow, we have what the hair is attached to, and this is called the frog. And it might be called the frog because it has two eyes on it. I'm not sure if you can see that there. 2 eyes. And on from the frog, moving up the stick, we have one more piece, and this is called the grip. Okay? So the grip is what helps you hold on to the bow. So again, tighten, righty-tighty, tighten it, almost about a pencil's width in the middle, and then loosening the stick. So you can just practice that too, just to get comfortable doing it and how much you're going to tighten it and loosen it. If you tighten it too much, you'll start to get a wow going this way in the stick. And then again, it'll skip around too much. So just be careful of that. Okay? And with that, I'm going to pick up the violin. I'll come back to the bow, and I'm going to go through the parts of the violin with you right now, just so we know what we're talking about and when I reference something. So the violin, it almost looks like a person in a way. So you have the headstock up here, you have the neck, you have the body, okay? The front of the body is called the belly, and the back, of course, is called the back. So moving back up to the headstock, this part up here, which is curled up, is called the scroll. Okay, the scroll is part of the headstock. Inside here is these are the pegs, of course, which we use to loosen and tighten the bow. Inside here is the peg box. And then, of course, the neck we talked about. On top of the neck is made up of 2 parts. We have the neck, which attaches to the body. And the black, which is usually made of ebony, is the fingerboard. So the fingerboard, of course, is where the fingers go on. Moving down, we have, of course, the strings, which we'll get to right away. We have the bridge, because it looks like a bridge, right? If you look at it that way. We have the tailpiece. My tailpiece has fine tuners on. Not every tailpiece has that, although I do recommend it for tuning. It makes life a lot easier for tuning. And we have the chin rest, which your chin goes on. We have the button on the back, which holds up the tailpiece. And then we have the sides. These holes here on both sides of the bridge are called the F holes. So we have those. And then, of course, I put the chin rest on. These little lines around the outside of the violin are called purfling, although we won't be needing to know that too much. So that's the parts. Actually, one more thing. If you look inside, and we can't really see here, but there's a post coming from the underneath the E string going down, and that's called the sound post, and that transfers the sound from the top of the violin to the body and helps it resonate. There'll be a bass bar on the other side, which is a little trickier to see as well. So that's just a little bit about the guts and the inside of the violin. Okay, I'm going to talk about the bow now. I'm going to go back to the bow. One of the most important things with playing the violin is having the proper bow grip and proper wrist flexibility. It allows you to play the instrument smoothly. So, as I mentioned before, I'm not going to hold the hairs, but the bow is going to go in your right hand. So the right hand, with the left hand, I'm going to grab the bow by the frog like this, and I'm going to do my setup. Now you can see here, the frog has a little bit of a curvature in it. And so in between the curvature, a lot of mistake that people will make, they'll try and cram their thumb right into that curvature, but we don't want to do that. It's too tight actually, and it's gonna set things up wrongly. So in between the curve where it touches the stick and the grip, there should be a strip of wood, a little course of wood off the stick that you can see, and that is where I'm going to set my thumb. I'm going to put my thumb on that little course of wood right there. Then my first finger, I'm going to call my pointer finger my first finger. On the second knuckle, not this knuckle, but this knuckle, I'm going to wrap around on the grip my first finger on that second knuckle. Then my next two fingers, my middle and ring finger, will sit on the side of the frog like this, leaving my pinky to rest right on the tip of the frog. Okay? So you can see with that grip, I have this hump in my thumb, my first finger around, those two resting. All the weight, though, should be on this pointer finger. The entire weight of the bow should rest there. At any point in time, I should be able to take those off and even give myself permission to do that sometimes when I'm playing. An alternate grip I've seen people use is putting the thumb on top of the frog. Lots of players will play with the thumb right on top of the frog, but we will still have that same hump on the bump in your thumb. So I'm going to keep mine like this just because that's how I like to play. So when I turn my bow over, I can feel all of the weight transfer onto the pinky. So let's just try that. Do your bow setup, and everything should be loose. It should, like light. You shouldn't be clutching too hard on the stick. If you're clutching too hard, you're going to play your hand out. It's going to be tight. At any point in time, you should be able to take the stick out and put it back in. Okay? But still gripping it, right? If you look at the bow grip, it's almost like a circular, it's almost like you're looking through a tunnel a little bit here. So we have that. Now, you can feel, as I said before, you can feel all the weight on your pointer finger when you're holding the bow upside down like this. And this is how I like to reset my bow grip. If I've lost my bow grip, I like to reset it this way. Now when you turn it over, you'll feel all the weight transfer onto the pinky. Okay? If you look, that weight will all transfer back when I set the bow onto the strings. It'll all transfer back to the pointer finger. Okay? But right now you should feel it on the weight of your pinky. If you look at my wrist is pointing towards me. And I tell people, if I had a watch when I'm playing, I'd be playing and I'd be going, what time is it? Oh, it's fiddle time. Okay? So here's the other thing we can do. We can practice going just without bowing on any strings, just bowing down and up. We'll make our bows kind of go down and up. So when I come down, you can see my wrist. In my wrist, I have a valley here. I tell people I have a valley. As I go up, I come up and I have a mountain at the top. Okay, so when I come up to the top, you can see the mountain. You can see the hump is going this way. Going down is going this way. A good way to practice this is if you have a paper towel roll too. You can put paper towel roll over your shoulder and just practice this fluid movement. Mountain, valley. Or you can even do it straight up and down. Mountain, down to the valley. Up into the mountain, down into the valley. Of course, maintaining your bow grip, right? So the bow grip is very instrumental in playing. So practice this. Just practice this a few times, going up and down, up and down. It's important to keep your wrist pointed towards you, right? One common mistake I see is the locked wrist. People will start, and that goes from changing of the bow grip. All of a sudden, people will put their fingers like this, and then they start bowing with their shoulders or their elbows. You'll use your elbow to a certain amount, to a certain extent, but without that proper bow grip, things are going to change on you and move around too much. So we want to have that bow grip, okay? And so let's leave the bow grip for now, and we'll come back to that. I'm going to go to the violin now. We talked about the parts of the violin. We talked about the strings on the violin, okay? So there's 4 strings. The standard tuning, the common tuning of the violin strings are E, A, D, and G. So I'll get people to chant that along with me. When I say E, People chant E. When I say A, D, D, G, G. Just to kind of burn the string names into your consciousness, because I will be referencing them a lot. So to review again, E, A, D, and G. And you can, I get people to pluck them when they say them. So I'll say E, A, D, G. So they get used to the sound of playing them. If you're a guitar player, it's actually backwards from the top end of a guitar. E, A, D, G is the top of the strings going down. Usually on the guitar, the low string is the E. But here, the high pitch string is the E. E, A, D, and G. Okay? So with that, I tend to hold my violin like this if I'm sitting. So I put my left hand on the shoulder of the violin, and this is called the rest position, or the sitting rest position, I should say. Okay, so also in that rest position we can have the bow, just waiting to play. But I'm gonna just focus on the violin right now. So in the sitting rest position, I'll put my hand on the shoulder of the violin, and this is just to get practice putting the violin up in where you should be holding it. So I'll take the violin by the shoulder, and I'll say violin meet chin. Now I'll take my violin up, but I won't put my chin right square on the chin rest. It should be called a side chin rest, really, because I put the side of my chin on the violin like this. Okay, so everything should be at a 45-degree angle. And if I had a string, I could tie a string off the end of my nose to the end of the scroll. We talked about the scroll before, and you could tie that down. So let's just try that, getting into that position. Now it's easier if we have a shoulder rest on, because it kind of sits up on the shoulder as well. So violin, meet chin. I'll put my chin up here on the side, and as you can see, a 45-degree angle. The nice thing about this angle is it's going to make it easier for us to approach all these strings with the bow as we play them. Okay, so let's do that again, and now let's grab our bow and get our bow grip where we had it before. So everything should be nice and loose with the bow grip as well. And so if I have my hand relaxing, I'm not sure if you can see my hand here, my hand relaxing at the side, I can just take my hand and it should kind of almost fall into place naturally on the bow grip. Maybe I'll stand up for that so you can see that. So if my hand is hanging naturally here, if it just comes up, it should almost fall into place. Maybe just a few little minor adjustments as you go along. But again, everything should have a little bit of a kink in it. You have all these joints in your finger, right? And so we're going to use all those as we play with the bow, right? We don't want any of those stiff. As soon as we lock a joint up, we're going to be playing with our shoulder or our elbow. So again, everything nice and loose on the bow grip. Okay? I'm going to go back. I'm going to go into the sitting rest position, and I'm going to play my first tune. I'm going to show you the first tune called the Open String Blues.